We do not want teachers to go out and attack and rob ships at sea, right? It's got everything to do with the spirit of a pirate. Pirates are unconventional. They're willing to reject the status quo. They're willing to sail into uncharted waters with no guarantee of success. They're risk takers, rebels, mavericks.
Fire, earth, wind, water. This is the Elemental Educator. And now your host, Tyler Comeau.
Alchemists, welcome to another episode of the Elemental Educator Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and thank you so much for joining our community for another incredible connection. If you're here for the first time, welcome to a place where we redefine leadership and challenge the status quo. Take a minute before continuing the episode to subscribe to our YouTube at Elemental_Educator, where we upload all of our content daily and additional leadership content meant for anyone looking to grow. For those returning alchemists, take some time to expand our community and share this platform with one other person today. I'm so thankful for your passion and dedication to being better together. Now get ready to let the alchemy of education ignite your passion for learning. Today, I'm thrilled to connect with Dave Burgess. He is a New York Times bestselling author of Teach Like a Pirate and international keynote speaker, well known for his outrageously energetic performance style. He is also the president of Dave Burgess Consulting, Incorporated, and has disrupted the publishing industry by releasing over 200 books from innovative educators from across the world. He was an award-winning teacher in San Diego, California for 17 years, who currently lives in Vancouver, Washington. In April of 2024, he was inducted into the International Pirate Hall of Fame. Welcome to the Elemental Educator Podcast, Dave. It is a pleasure to have you here with us.
Hey, Tyler, thanks so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm so excited to dive in. I was going to use the word unpack, and you know what? I've recently got feedback. Somebody said, hey, you use the word unpack a lot. And I was going to say, I'm so excited to unpack your story. I'm so excited to dive into your story. And I want to start with, it's the big question right away, Dave, how did you get to where you are now?
So that goes way back. So first of all, I tell people my gateway drug into teaching was as a basketball coach. In fact, my first job as a human being is I worked for 3 summers for John Wooden at the John Wooden basketball camps in Thousand Oaks, California. So one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, maybe greatest coaches of all time. At a formative time in my life, I got to work side by side with John Wooden for 3 consecutive summers. And then my first job in a school system is I was hired as a basketball coach. Loved working with the kids so much. Went back to night school, got my teacher credential, became a teacher on campus, and never looked back. Yeah, and so that's how I first got into education.
That's amazing. And sports is actually kind of what steered me into education too right away. And it was my love and passion for learning a game and sharing that game with people and seeing people grow in that it translated so much towards the education industry. Now, putting after education aside, the transition to consulting, what made you take that leap and go that direction?
Yeah, so I had created a workshop at the time. A lot of people think that Teach Like a Pirate kind of maybe just came out of nowhere. I was speaking about Teach Like a Pirate all over the nation for about 6 to 7 years before the book came out. My first Teach Like a Pirate program was in 2005. Summer of 2005, I did it in my own district. And then the book came out 7 years later in 2012. So I was out there hustling. I was out there presenting many times for free at conferences all over the nation, just trying to get in front of people with my message. I was just super passionate about spreading the message, right? And then eventually a publishing company came to me, offered me a book contract, went straight up to my hotel room, Googled publishing contracts because I thought she was trying to cheat me when I looked at it. And then when I Googled it, I realized she wasn't trying to cheat me. That's what publishing contracts look like. And to me, the only thing missing was a ski mask and a gun. And so I ripped it up, didn't sign it, did a ton of research, formed our own publishing company, and we published Teach Like a Pirate from a laptop at the kitchen table. And so that's where this whole company started, was with publishing Teach Like a Pirate right from the house.
Dave, that's amazing. And as you speak to that, I have a book coming out as well. And I originally went through self-publishing and got picked up by a publisher, and I got the contract and I said, holy smokes, this is a lot. But I took the other route and I said, you know what? It takes a lot off my plate right now. And for what I don't have to deal with, I'm okay with it right now. I'm okay giving up a little bit of, potentially a lot of my freedoms towards the book to put a message out there, because it is the platform. Like you said, you've built it for 7 years before the book came out. Now, I do have to ask before we go any further into the episode, why the pirate theme?
Okay, so I always tell people it has nothing to do with the dictionary definition. We do not want teachers to go out and attack and rob ships at sea, right? It's got everything to do with the spirit of a pirate. Pirates are unconventional. They're willing to reject the status quo. They're willing to sail into uncharted waters with no guarantee of success. They're risk takers, rebels, mavericks. And so we want to embrace that spirit of being a pirate. But in addition to that, pirates are known for having hooks. And this is a message all about how you can hook students and draw them almost magically or magnetically into your content. And then I'm abnormally obsessed with acronyms, as a lot of educators are. So the first thing I did is I turned my page sideways. I wrote PIRATE down the page, tried to make it into an acronym. And so it is. And so like, for example, the P stands for passion. I knew I wanted to talk about passion and enthusiasm. There, the P and the E were sitting at the beginning and the ends of the word, like the cornerstones of it. It allowed me to be able to model and demonstrate some of the techniques I was using in my classroom, in my workshop, like setting up themes and costuming and staging and all that kind of stuff. And never look back. Like I said, did it first in August of 2005 and have been honing and the Teach Like a Pirate message ever since.
First of all, it's incredible to hear where it came from and where it grew from. And within it, I was hoping you would bring up the acronym actually, because it brings us to our first segment, which is grounded segments.
3, 2, 1.
Rooted in wisdom, driven by purpose. Welcome to Grounded Moments. And to build some momentum here, I want to start by asking you, what's one thing grounding you in what you're doing now?
So I think it's one of the same things that was from the very start of this. And this was about ways that we could make schools places that kids would run into instead of run out. And a lot of schools, you see kids that we can't wait for the bell to ring, get the heck out of there. They have other things that are more engaging and interesting in their lives. And I think schools should be places that we would create such powerful learning experiences for them that they want to come to school and be a part of that. That's like there's kind of a couple key questions in Teach Like a Pirate. One of them is, if they didn't have to be there, would you be teaching to an empty room? And so that's like always one of the things that has kind of grounded me in this work is like, how can we create learning experiences for kids that make them want to be a part of it, have self-interest in being a part of it, and we're not always just trying to like manage behavior problems and all that.
God, Dave, this resonates so much on a deeper level beyond students here. So when I wrote, and I'm going to come back to my book for a sec, when I wrote Elemental Leader, which is going to come out shortly, I originally titled it Elemental Educator, and it was a book about schools and principals and the school system. And I sat back and I went, it's so much deeper in the message I'm trying to want to send. It's leadership, it's organization, and Teach Like a Pirate could very easily become Lead Like a Pirate, because that theme of wanting to hook people goes beyond teachers wanting to hook kids. It's principals wanting to hook teachers. It's managers wanting to hook their employees. It's CEOs wanting to hook their assistant directors, deputy directors, associate superintendents, whatever that might be in that position. It goes way beyond that. And to hear the root to it, it's so powerful. And before the show, I asked you to provide a quote that resonated with you. And the quote you chose is "Reject tyranny of picked, pick yourself" by Seth Godin. And first of all, it's a great quote. I hope to have Seth on the show one day. I've heard him on a few shows. He's an incredible speaker, incredible energy, incredible message that he sends. And I think a great starting question here is, how did you find the quote and why did you choose to share that on the show today?
So I've read almost everything that Seth has ever written. I've listened to him on almost every show he's ever been on, including his own podcast when he was doing that. And so he's one of my favorite authors. And I quote him in my book several places, including he has a book called Purple Cow, which is about how to create remarkable, like how to turn things into something that's remarkable. And that's a big part of the Teach Like a Pirate message as well. And so I was exposed to this quote, and to me, this was what it was all about. Is a lot of people are waiting for someone to choose them. They're waiting. They're raising their hand, waiting to be picked. And in life, you don't have to be picked. So I love what he says: reject the tyranny of picked. This is not the way that the system is set up. You can pick yourself. You can go out there. And so for me, I was not happy with the publishing contracts. I was not happy with the publishing industry. And whenever you see an industry that's based on an outdated model, that means it's ripe for disruption. And I thought the publishing industry was based on an outdated model, and I wanted to disrupt it. And so I picked myself, started Dave Burgess Consulting Incorporated, and put the book out. And then moving forward from that, realized that what I had done was I tried to take the best of the self-publishing world, get rid of the worst, and try to take the best of the traditional publishing world, get rid of the worst, and create this sort of like, hopefully, perfect kind of hybrid model in the middle, which is what we do. And that so a business entrepreneurship is about, first, Tim Ferriss says, scratch your own itch. And so I had a problem. I wasn't happy with the publishing industry. I wasn't happy what they were going to do with my book. So I scratched my own itch, created something that helped me, and knew that then if I could scale that to other people who would be feeling the same pain that I was feeling, that's a business, right? And so that's where the Dave Burgess Consulting part came in. It's like, okay, I did it with Teach Like a Pirate, and we did it with Teach Like a Pirate. Now other people are out there saying like, hey, how did you do this? We don't want to sign those contracts either. And so scaling it to be able to provide that opportunity for other educators is where now it becomes a business and a form of entrepreneurship. And so we picked ourselves. No one's going to say like, hey, you can go out and start a publishing company. That's never going to happen. So if you wait for something like, no, we went out and we did it. We published Teach Like a Pirate on our own, started the business on our own, published to other people on our own. And now, we're a full-scale publisher, but that's not the way it started out. We had to pick ourselves first. And I think that's what too many people are waiting for other people to give them permission to do things as opposed to just taking it.
Absolutely. And maybe a subtlety there in the use of the tyranny and the pirate. I don't know. I associate those two words together. So it's a great quote that meshes really well. And it's the idea of when you have an opportunity to bet on yourself, right? And it's the same idea that you're sharing here, because you have the ability to be in control. And I would much rather leave my fate into my own hands versus somebody else's. Now, what we determine what we want to have control over is totally up to the individual. But when you look at it, you have to make sure that when you walk away and you go to bed at night, that what you're thinking of was a decision that you're proud of. And that's usually not going to come from a decision that you let someone else make. It's going to come from a decision that you made. And there are going to be times where you make that decision and you go back and you say, I should not have made that decision. Well, guess what? That was an opportunity to learn. Because that sun comes up the next day, you have an opportunity to reset, and you're always going to have an opportunity to bet on yourself. Because when you start letting other people bet for you, eventually they might stop. You can always bet on yourself. So I love the message you're sending. Now, you kind of shared how it influenced the startup of your publishing. How does this quote impact your workflow now?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, part of this is that I talk to lots of educators who think that they maybe don't have a book inside of them, or they're not doing something special, unique, or something that's worth sharing. And it's the same thing. And it's like almost everybody has a book inside of them. Almost everyone is doing something special and unique, but because they're so focused on the ground level of what they're doing, they can't see the bigger picture of like, no. Like sometimes like a person will say like, I don't know if I'm really doing anything special enough for a book. And then they'll explain to me what they're doing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like you are crushing it. You are killing it. Like they think what they're doing is everyone's doing it. No, like if you go into other classrooms, you'd be remarkably surprised that people are not doing this stuff that you're doing, and you should be sharing your message. And so it's always trying to convince educators, whether it's through a book or whether it's through speaking, whether it's through doing, workshops, whatever it might be, or just through social media. Share your work. Get out there and be a part of community building. And some people think it's egotistical to always wanting to be sharing what you are doing. No, you are contributing to the community, right? You are you are getting ideas from that community and bringing them into your school system, and then you're taking your best stuff and you're sharing it out. There's nothing egotistical. If you think it would be something that would be helpful for students in someplace other than just your classroom, then you have a moral responsibility to share it. It's not just okay to share it. If you have information that could help other teachers better serve students, other leaders better serve their school system and their staff, and build better cultures, it's not just okay to share it. You've got a moral responsibility to share it, right? And I am an over-the-top person, so I have an over-the-top example of this, okay? And so like if you're at a party and it's crowded, and someone on the other side of the room falls to the ground and stops breathing, and you know CPR, would it be egotistical and selfish of you to be like, oh, hey, I could help that person? If you push your way through the crowd in order to get over to them, are you a bully? Are you like just trying to be the life of the party? No. You have a moral responsibility to get to that person on the ground because you have just what they need and just when they need it. That's the same thing that is true of anything in the world. If you have information that other people need, you have a moral responsibility to share it. You don't just have a moral responsibility to share it. You have the responsibility to do whatever you need to do to get good at sharing it as well. Because the more people that will be exposed to that work that you have, then the more people will be served and the better they'll be served. So it's not just sharing it, but also taking the time, the effort, putting in that heart, that drive to actually do the work to get good at sharing it too.
Alchemists, if you're not watching the video episode of this, you are missing quite the show here, because we are getting the passion and the enthusiasm from Dave here as we get into living our life like a pirate. The message is so prominent with you, and I know you're absolutely going to crush this next part here. But before we get to it, I want to add on to what you're saying, because it is so powerful to bet on yourself. It is so powerful to deliver with passion, and it's something I hesitated with before I started this show, because I was in the same mindset you're explaining. I didn't want to go to a point of, oh, I don't want people to perceive this as egotistical. Oh, I don't want people to perceive this as I'm just trying to impose what I have to say on people. No, I'm trying to contribute, right? And the whole point of this is to contribute to the community of leadership and education, so that people unpack this together and collectively we move forward. Just because I'm sharing something does not mean the listener on the other end needs to agree with it, needs to act on it, needs to take it word for word and go verbatim and go and action it. Interpret it. Be your own scientist, be your own researcher, right? Make your decision for yourself on that. Now, here's the part that I think you're going to crush. We talked about, I do elevator pitches on the show, and in 10 to 20 seconds here, I want you to pitch to our audience why they should live like a pirate.
Absolutely. So this is about increasing student engagement, boosting your creativity, and transforming your life as an educator, and embracing the mightier purpose of being an educator, and understanding what we do goes far beyond the content standards, and it's embracing that life-changing role that we have in our students' lives. And so it's also about fulfilling your purpose and fulfilling your destiny, and really stepping into that greatness, that potential greatness that you have. That's what Teach Like a Pirate, I hope, will help educators to do.
I love it. And it's important to acknowledge that when you bet on yourself, you are going to face moments of adversity. When you try to take control, there are going to be things that we have to push through. And that sets us up really well for our next segment. Through storms and surges, discover the lessons from Headwinds and Tailwinds, where we focus on the challenges that test us and the forces that help us move forward. So first, let's set the stage here, Dave. Can you share a time when you faced significant adversity? What was happening, and how did it feel in that moment?
So I think the one that I'm going to choose is a time where a lot of us felt adversity in education and just in the world in general, and that was during COVID-19. And we know what that did to educators. We know what that did to teachers. We know what that did with all that kind of stuff. But from my standpoint, I'm a professional development speaker. I'm a keynote speaker. And on 1 week, I had every single speaking engagement wiped off the calendar. I had a conference. We had decided to do our first DBC. It was called PirateCon. We were going to have a big conference, 50 DBC Inc. authors with sessions, like 5 keynotes. And in San Diego, California, we'd already been selling tickets. We had booked the venue. We had paid for an app for the scheduling of it. We had invested thousands and thousands of dollars, wiped off the calendar, right? And so we were forced into a position of having to transform ourselves as a business in order to stay alive, and I had to learn and develop how to become an engaging speaker over Zoom and create Zoom programs, obviously, and had to double down on book sales, and had to we started Facebook professional development for teachers who were also trying to teach virtually, and would bring in speakers to talk to them about tips on how to do virtual education. And so we had to see that the whole market had shifted, and how can we best serve educators during this disruptive time. And again, just like I mentioned with the publishing company, when you see something that's ripe for when you see something that's based on outdated models, time for disruption. Well, this disruption was forced upon us as opposed to chosen, right? And I think it really showed educators across the world that first of all, that educators can be incredibly innovative and creative during trying and challenging times. But also there was this kind of belief system, I think, that was prevalent, that change is slow. Education, like people say, like the ship turns slow. Like don't expect you're just gonna be able to roll something new out. This is gonna take years, this new initiative, like we have to build the groundwork and all that. Well, we saw education shift in a week. And so we learned, I believe, unfortunately, it was tragic reasons why we had to this time. But I think what we learned is that, hey, change does not have to be slow. Change can happen right now, and we can be innovative, we can be creative, and we can change the whole educational system right on a dime if we want to, and if we have the willpower, the courage, and the creativity to do it.
You said something early on that is going to pull it all back together, and you used the words double down. And, it's a gambling term where, you think you believe in yourself so much that you're going to double your bet. You're going to double down on what you're doing. And it ties into that theme of bet on yourself, pick yourself, right? And so when adversity hit, rather than conform and go with what an external pressure was telling you to do, you doubled down on yourself and you saw payoff from it. And again, you might have to triple down, you might have to quadruple down. I don't know how far we have to go, but if you continue to pick yourself and you continue to bet on yourself, you'll reach a turning point. You'll find it. It'll come. You just have to be persistent and consistent with it, right? And that's the idea of staying grounded, staying aligned. Now on this, that is a tough time, right? I can't even imagine being a keynote speaker and going and offering all of these in-person sessions and having them removed, in the quick transition that, by the way, you've done so well in transitioning to virtual content as well and online content as well. What was the turning point for you where things started to shift and you started to go, this doubling down is paying off?
Yeah, I think it's always just about not falling too much in love with the current status and reality, but always trying to look and see, like, what does your community need? And always looking first to serve your community. And so I think that is one of the key lessons coming out of that for us was like, okay, no, like everyone's been thrown into turmoil. What can we do right now to serve? How can we best serve? And that's one of the things we think about. We have brainstorming meetings sometimes about how to help our authors, for example. We say, okay, we've published their books, they're out there, stuff. What can we do right now to best serve our authors? And so, like, for example, we offer content coaching. Like we have one-on-one sessions. Tara Martin, who works for me, will do one-on-one sessions with our authors and show them how to break their content into shareable pieces and how to share it via social media, right? And we have a Zoom call coming up this month with authors where we're going to show them how to create reels and videos and different things like that. And so it's always about like, okay, what do our authors need right now and how can we best serve them? And that's something that I think, that's the focus for educators as well. Well, if you're a leader, how can I best serve my staff, which will then in turn help them serve the students? If you're a teacher, how can I best serve my students, right? And so always keeping that focus on serving the community is, I think, one of the big lessons of it.
And what a good perspective to flip it and say, I'm doubling down on myself, but what I'm picking is how can I serve other people, right? How can I be of value to people that I engage with? And so those sessions sound incredible. I might have to jump in on one of them as well for myself. And I'm going to play off of the pirate ship theme here and say everyone needs an anchor to stay grounded during this adversity. And what was yours?
I think it kind of goes to what I was just saying about the community. Is that it really showed us the power of community. And sometimes teachers feel like the door closes, you're in your room alone. Principal's a lonely job. There's only one of you on the campus, right? And so really focusing on understanding how important it is to connect with other people and develop that sense of community. And if you can't find community at your school site, go elsewhere. Go through, whether it's social media, whether it's through organizations. There's all sorts of incredible educational organizations, right? There's all sorts of incredible communities that have developed through social media. If you can't find community where you work, make sure you find it somewhere, because it's probably the most important thing as far as longevity in the profession, is having someone that you can lean on, learn with, grow with, be inspired by, and supported.
It's great to hear how you took the headwind and the adversity of a global shutdown and turned it into a tailwind by rallying with the community and seeing what did the community need and where does it need to go. So for people facing their own headwinds, what's one thing they can do to keep moving forward? Yeah,
so I think that part of this is understanding, and this kind of grew out at the same time too, a real focus on SEL, but from an adult standpoint, right? And self-care. I have a thing in my book called Creative Alchemy. And what Creative Alchemy is it's the idea of taking ideas from all sorts of different areas and combining them together to create something powerful. And alchemy, of course, and you refer to the alchemist, right? Like
Absolutely.
this principle we used to believe in, where you could take elements that in of themselves were a very little value.
2,500 years.
Some magical way you combine them, you could create something of incredibly high value, right? And most people don't believe in that as a science anymore, but I believe in it as a creator. I'm going to tell you something very unusual about Teach Like a Pirate. There's not a single education book referenced inside of it. Not a single one. Not because I don't like education books. I told you I've published over 200 of them. I love education books because that's not where it came from. It was from the outside drawn in. My background as a coach influenced how I break down instruction, how I give feedback, how I provide a motivational component to what I do. Like, so how a coach can have a team ready to knock down a wall coming out of a locker room. I can do that with students. And now as a professional development speaker, I can do that with teachers, right? And as my background as a magician, influenced my sense of staging and showmanship and incorporation of props and different things like that. My background as a marketer and entrepreneur. What does a marketer do? A marketer is trying to persuade you to take action, is what a marketer is trying to do, really. And what are we trying to do as educators? We're trying to persuade people to take action, right? And so there's not much difference there. It's just that one is selling a product, we're selling education, and we're selling something that's going to empower their lives. And so I'm using marketing and sales techniques woven throughout what I do and Teach Like a Pirate. My background as an MC. Like if you were to see me do a professional development workshop, you would sit there and go like, okay, wait a second. Is this a workshop or is this a show? Because this guy's speaking about 1,000 miles a minute and speaking in a very fast and flourishy way, right? Well, I'm a person who's used to being on a microphone in front of people. So I'm incorporating that into my speaking style. All these things have come together to create the best me. But Teach Like a Pirate is not about you teaching like me. It's about you taking your strengths, your talents, your passions, and weaving them together with some of these human nature ideas from Teach Like a Pirate about what just engages human beings to create the most powerful you, right? And so what's unique about you, your particular strengths and talents, your voice that you add to your classroom, to your school system is what makes you most powerful and effective. And so it's always about, like, I don't feel guilty for time I spend outside of education. I tell that to educators all the time. Don't feel guilty about time you spend outside of education, because that's where you're going to get the creative ammunition, those things that you're going to use in that creative alchemy to create something powerful and unique. And it's going to be unique because it comes from your life experiences, your strengths and talents.
Not only that, educators pull from, and it's getting more common to pull from other sources on how to introduce into your classroom and organization. You talked about how you pull marketing in, right? The idea of persuasion. And flipping the script a bit, I think we're starting to see a shift where outside organizations are also starting to pull in concepts of education. So it's starting to go both ways. And that opens a huge door of opportunities where if you are in education, if you are in some type of leadership, to create a platform for yourself, to be a part of the conversation, right? You can start to make that name for yourself a bit, put yourself out there and be highly engaged and maybe become the next big keynote speaker, maybe become the next big author from recognizing that you actually serve a bigger purpose as well. And it's great to hear that story, Dave. And all of these are the idea of actioning that change to address the adversity, which brings us to our third elemental segment. Small shifts, big waves. This is Ripples of Change, where we dive into the power of embracing change and making waves that last. So Dave, what's a recent change you embraced or led?
Okay, so this is one which I am in a growth mindset place. So I'm not an expert by any means, but I do see the power and potential of, and so I am trying to become a more active user of AI as a brainstorming partner, as someone that can be like a virtual assistant, someone who can help me take care of some of the things that used to take me a lot of time that were just kind of busy work. But now AI can just do so much, so fast and quick that it frees me up to do the stuff that I'm really wanting to do, which is more of the creative work, right? But I have now a virtual assistant that can help me brainstorm ideas. And if I can get good at prompt engineering, then it's going to increase. Like in the book, Teach Like a Pirate, the whole center section of the book are questions. It's set up as questions. Anthony Robbins said, questions are the laser of human consciousness. If you want to change a teacher's classroom, change their questions. Questions are the key to creativity. And so now it used to be that I would have to do all this brainstorming on my own, but now I have a brainstorming partner that never gets tired and is a lot faster than me. And I'm trying to get better and better at using that. And like I said, I'm not an expert at it yet. I'm in a very much growth mindset spot with it, but it's fun to learn new things.
So when I'm talking to Wendy, Dave, am I talking to Wendy, or am I talking to AI Wendy?
Wendy is absolutely an AI bot. Wendy is my incredible right-hand person. I was about to say right-hand man, but that's not very appropriate. Wendy is my right-hand person. Tara is my left-hand person. So the DBC, you see all these books come out. There's like over 200 books. And if you really get down to the core of it, there's three of us. There's me in Vancouver, Washington. There's Wendy in San Diego, California, who's doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff, all the royalties and distribution and account, like all that kind of stuff, and much more, booking speakers, all that is Wendy. Tara is doing a lot of the creative stuff and graphic design and promotional graphics and interviewing potential authors and doing author coaching and all these kind of things. I'm doing my stuff. And, then we have a great production team too, led by, it's a couple, Sal and Lindsay, who live in North Carolina. They're fantastic. They have a great production team that does the behind the scenes on the books. And so we're a very small team, small but powerful team that gets things done. And then, we're all trying to use AI a little better.
I love that. And thanks for the shout out to your team, because they're also so important to making everything happen as well. And it's such an important piece for us to drive and move forward, is to know that you have that team with you as well. Now, with that, as anybody that knows me knows that I love AI all the time. I use it as my own virtual assistant too, and I'm constantly bouncing ideas off of it. And people that really know me know that I probably talk to AI more than I talk to most people, because I'm constantly questioning it on things, and I'm saying, how can we interact? How can you optimize this? What can this look like? What do you think of this idea? Where does this go? And I'm not using it so much to create the process for me, the end result for me, but I'm using it to help me refine the process. I'm using it to help me see the big picture on things. And it's pretty powerful at that. It needs a lot of coaching though. You're right. This thing, I got to talk to it a lot to get it to go the right way. And people probably think I'm crazy. I'm talking into my phone using the audio message, because I'll send this thing 3 to 5 paragraphs at a time to get a prompt. I'm not giving it my 1 sentence prompt and hoping to just spit out an answer. So it's so important to do it with intention when you do it, which, AI is such a new world for us. And I'm curious, we're definitely not at your final move, but when you do change and you implement change, there's often the first move and the final move. So what was your first move to get into the AI stream?
So the first move that I used it for letters of recommendation was my first, the initial thing that I used it for. My youngest son, Finn, had to do I still remember it, had to do a letter of recommendation to get into a massage therapy program, and said, oh my gosh, this person, I asked them for a letter of recommendation and they asked me to write it for them. And then they would just tweak it a little bit and sign it. So now I have to write this letter. I'm like, this is no problem at all, ChatGPT. And so we put in the link to the massage therapy program, put in some background information on Finn and how Finn knew this person that was supposedly writing the letter of recommendation, right? And 30 seconds, ChatGPT spit out a letter of recommendation. Was one of the best ones I've ever seen in my life, right? It's like, oh my God, we could have spent 2 hours and not written it this well. And so sent it to the person, and the person was like, whoa, this is incredible. I didn't know you could write like that. Made a few tweaks to personalize it, sent it back to Finn, and it was done. And I mean, this was just the whole thing probably took us 5 minutes. And that was okay, wait a second. There is an opportunity here that we are missing just from a productivity and efficiency standpoint, let alone the creative stuff that we can get into later. But just from a productivity and efficiency standpoint, this could be a game changer.
Absolutely. And I've played around with it too, from a productivity standpoint, of saying something as simple as, can you build my meal plan for the week? And you can take a picture now of your fridge and say, hey, look at what's in my fridge and tell me what's missing and what I need. And it's going to do it for you. It's incredible. And I'm chuckling here a little bit because as we have this AI conversation, I get a message from my partner that says, hey, I just heard you say that you talk to AI more than you talk to people. I can attest that that's definitely true. So it is a growing thing. It is a thing that everybody's excited about. Everybody's also very nervous about. And with it, though, it can bring a lot of positive momentum or unexpected setbacks. Was there any ripple effect you didn't see coming as you tapped into the world of AI?
Well, just like everyone else, I think I've just been shocked at the speed of development. And whatever you thought AI was going to be able to do a year ago, it can do so much more and so much better. And so the idea, I think what the key lesson in that is that it's ridiculous to project forward too far. Like if you think you know what AI is going to look like in 3 years, you're wrong. And so it's more about not predicting the future, but more being willing to be open to change and having the flexibility to adapt to what these next changes are going to do and be, and what our role as educators is going to be in that new space. And so get out of the prediction game and get into the becoming as highly adaptable as you possibly can.
And that's the importance to it. One of the surprises for me when I dove into AI was there was actually a large group around me that took it as a fad or a trend and said this isn't going to be something that sticks around. And the reason was it was change, and they were nervous of the change and they were hesitant of the change. And that really surprised me that it wasn't just embraced and rolled with. So that's maybe an example to people listening that, even though these things are really cool and you can utilize them in powerful ways, people will still be hesitant to it. And there is a purpose for people to serve in educating how to use them to unlock potential for people, right? I'm not here to unlock the potential of AI for people. I'm here to unlock leadership potential. So it's not the podcast for you if that's what you're looking for, but it's going to be out there. And if not, it should be. And I wouldn't be surprised if AI even wrote it one day and then spoke it and then published it itself. It's going to be ridiculous where it goes to. Now, putting AI aside, and we just talk change in general here, people often worry that when change is brought up, it doesn't last. And that's kind of why people will say this is a fad, this is a trend. What is something that you do when you're speaking to make people think that this isn't just a trend or a fad that you're trying to pass? And how do you get it to become a part of culture?
Yeah, so as far as making something a part of culture, I use what I call the snowball analogy. People will come to me and say, like, how can I change the culture of my school system? Or how can I create a more teach like a pirate culture with my staff? And they want something that they can announce. And I always say, you can't announce change from the podium. Change is always built at a grassroots level. And so the snowball analogy is this: like if you wanted to build a giant snowball and you went out and you tried to grab up all the snow on your arms at one time, what would happen? It would crumble away from you and you'd wind up with nothing. That's not how you build a giant snowball. The only way you build a giant snowball is you get a little bit in your hands and you shape it and you mold it and you pack it tight. And then you add a little bit more, and you work and you shape and mold that. Eventually it gets big enough where you can set it on the ground and you can roll it and the snow will stick. That's the only way you build a giant snowball. That's the only way you create change in the school system too. Rather than allowing your energy to be dissipated by the apathy in the school system or negativity in different parts of your school system. Every school system has it. There's people that are apathetic. There's people that are going to be maybe a little toxic and negative. Every school system has it. People think they're unique. No, you don't understand. I have some people on my campus that don't want to change. Oh, really? Well, man, this is like maybe the only school in the world that has that. I've never heard that before in my life. No, every school has that, right? And so, but you find the people that do want to be a part of something different, do want to change, do want to try something creative, do want to be innovative and be a risk taker, right? And you work with them. You focus your energy there. And then other people, it's the energy and enthusiasm that radiates out from that group starts to attract other people in, and you welcome them into the fold. And then eventually it gets big enough where you can set it on the ground in your school system and roll it out. But you have that core group with you now that can be a part of that, right? And so again, you can't announce change from the podium. You always build it. That's why, like a school, this will happen to me all the time, Tyler. Someone will call me and say, hey, you know what? You're probably not interested in this, but we have like 4 or 5 teachers reading your book right now. And they meet at lunch in the staff lounge, and like, I hate to even ask this. There's only like 4 or 5 of them, but like, would you be willing to zoom into that and like chat with them about it? I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, of course every single place Teach Like a Pirate has taken off. That's how it started. It's just like maybe one person, Teach Like a Pirate, shares it with their grade level team person, who then shares it with the 4th grade team. And then the next thing you know, maybe I zoom into a little thing at the staff lounge, and then all of a sudden they do a staff book study on it. And the next thing you know, I'm the keynote speaker at the district. Like it's built at a grassroots level. And so you always have to find people at the lowest possible number that are trying to connect around something, help them, support them, empower them. And then you'll watch change grow through your system.
I love that. And couldn't be more true. Sticking to my elemental theme, I've always used the analogy of, if you want to get gold, if you want to get silver, if you want to get the valuable metals, you actually have to fuse them in an iron core first and a star, right? And it has to go through a supernova explosion first to fuse other elements. You can't just jump to the heavy metals. You have to start with hydrogen and helium. And that's the science nerd in me coming out. That's the alchemy coming out of me. You have to start small. You have to build it up. And thank you for sharing that. With this, we get into that idea that change can bring bold decisions. Now, you have to start small. You don't always have to, I should say that. There are situations where you don't have to, but usually we start at the grassroots, and it leads to that big decision or that risk we took, which brings us to, I think this is going to be our most fun segment here, Dave, because I feel the energy coming in, but we're ready for our fourth elemental segment. Ignite your ideas, face the flames. This is Spark or Burn, where we talk about bold decisions, big risks, and the fires that either spark success or burn lessons into our memory. Dave, can you tell us about a time when you made a bold leadership decision or took a major risk?
So I think people looking back on this are going to say that it was not a risk, but they weren't there at the time. And that risk was leaving the classroom and jumping full time into the speaking and entrepreneurial world with my book. And at that time, when I did that, there were no other books in the line. It was just Teach Like a Pirate, and it was my speaking. And I had been teaching for 17 years. So walked away from the retirement system, walked away from all that pension plan that was developing and growing and all that kind of stuff, and struck out on my own with Dave Burgess Consulting Incorporated and traveling and speaking. And part of what that was about was, I always tell people they should follow their energy. Like, where is your energy flowing to naturally, and go that way and support that. In other words, when I first got into teaching, I was so focused on my lessons. I was so focused on creating powerful learning experiences for kids. And that was like what I wanted to do. I wanted to finish everything else so I could get back to creating something cool for my students. And so, like, what do you want to do when everything else is finished? And how can you adjust your life so you get to do more of that, right? And so that was I started to see my energy shift more to the program and speaking and influencing educators on a wider scale, and eventually and sharing the book and all of those things. That's where my energy was flowing. And it was like, okay, here's the problem though. I can't miss any more days. I only have so many days I can miss, right? But I have these opportunities to go speak in front of these amazing audiences and share my message, but I can't go because I can't miss any more days. And so what I started to notice is that I was sabotaging myself. I was sabotaging the spread of my message because I knew somewhere subconsciously that if it really took off, I wasn't going to be able to take advantage of it anyway, because I couldn't leave, right? And so it was finally like, okay, this is really starting to build and grow without me going all in. If I leave this classroom and go all in on spreading this message, what could happen? This thing could blow up. And that's exactly what happened. I left the classroom, and the Teach Like a Pirate thing just went viral and blew up because I was no longer sabotaging myself. I was willing to go take a risk, follow that energy, follow that flow. And, so that's something I always tell and then, by the way, it became less about spreading Teach Like a Pirate and more about how can I amplify the message of other educators. And that's why the publishing, I'm most passionate now about the publishing company, less passionate about going and speaking. I still love to go speak, but I'm really passionate about finding other educators with powerful messages and help them amplify those messages, right? And so that's where the energy went to. And so I'm always like on the kind of lookout, kind of like reading the room. What is it that I'm like really excited about? Like, what is it that I want to get all this stuff done so I can focus in on this? And then again, changing your life so that you're doing more of that.
And you took all of my follow-up questions away from me here, because I wanted to unpack, what's at stake, what kept you going. And we addressed it all, which was incredible to hear. And the idea, what stands out to me here, Dave, is you're bringing it back to your value. You're bringing it back to the earth element. You're bringing it back to betting on yourself, and then leaning on that idea of service, leaning on that idea of community, leaning on that idea of how can what I do benefit others, right? It's really fun to go stand up on a stage and keynote speak, and it feels powerful and it feels motivational, and it's very cool to step back and say, actually, what's really helping people is getting other people's work out there by publishing as well. Yeah. That's so strong too. And with that, these are intimidating decisions to make. Like, to start your own publishing company is an intimidating decision to make. And to go do your first keynote presentation, it's an intimidating decision to go make. What is one bold action that you can dare our audience to take this week to build their risk-taking muscle?
Yeah. And so I think that, they say that all growth is found outside of your comfort zone. And so if you're never uncomfortable, you're not growing. And it's something that we talk to students about so easily and readily, right? That we talked about a growth mindset. Student says, hey, I'm not good at math. We're like, whoa, no, hold on a second. You're not good at math yet. And we work with them and we build their skills and we give them some momentum towards where we want them to go, right? Or if a kid came up to us and said, hey, you know what? I'm actually really uncomfortable speaking in front of other people, so I don't want to do any presentations this year. Would we ever say to that kid, oh yeah, that's a thing, just go sit quietly in the corner all year, don't worry about it? No, of course not, right? We're going to work with them and help develop their confidence and give them closer and closer approximations of what we ultimately want them to accomplish. And so for a lot of people listening right now, there's something that deep down that you want to do. There's something that you have. There's like a dream that you want to chase, but you're letting that fear of discomfort stand in the way. You're letting that fear of failure stand in the way. Or you're hiding around this idea of perfection. Well, I would like to give the keynote, but it's just not perfectly developed yet. It's not going to be perfectly developed. It's never going to be perfectly developed. If you wait for someone to be perfect, that's another way. That's an excuse that you're making of saying, like, this is why I'm not doing it. Like, this is how I'm getting away with justifying to myself that I'm not doing it. Or the time's not right. You know what? I just had a couple children. I'm not going to do it right now. Or, the economy's bad right now. I don't think it's kind of a risky time to really tackle that, right? No, listen, if you wait for the time to be right, it's another way of saying, I'm not going to do this and I'm looking for a way to justify it to myself, right? So
I'm not betting on myself.
You're not betting on yourself. The time is now. The time is right. And be willing to step into that discomfort. Be willing to take that risk and go accomplish something big.
Alchemist, this is living proof of this. This is over episode 50. If you want something absolutely atrocious, go listen to episode 0. Go listen to the way I talk about in episode 1. Not my guests. My guests were amazing. Go listen to how I run my show. It has grown. It's changed so much because at that time I did my best. We put out what we thought was our best work, recognizing we're going to grow from it. Look at my first video that I put up on my YouTube channel. Just go have a look and then compare it to what's going up now. You're going to see a huge difference. And that's again, it comes down to we grow and we build our plane as we're flying it, right? We have to develop that way. Now, Dave, I want to jump into our last segment here, which is listener questions. And I think for the last 4 episodes, I've been saying I have a little fun audio thing to play and I don't. And I was going to build up the confidence to sing a little jingle about listener questions, but I don't have the confidence today yet. Now it's time for listener questions. Okay, there we go. Now,
there it is. All right.
Dave, I put out on my social media, hey, we have Dave coming onto the show later today. And audience members, if you have a question that you wanted us to bring up, you could send one in and we would address it on the show. And one of the questions that came in is Teach Like a Pirate emphasizes passion. How do you recommend teachers rediscover their passion when they're feeling burned out?
Yeah, so one of the things I do in the book is I break passion into 3 categories. And so we think about passion as this singular thing, but it's not. And the three categories I tap into are, 1, your content passion, but there's this deep, dark secret that I talk about as well, is that, hey, you know what? We're not passionate about everything we teach. It's just the truth of the matter. In my presentation, I say, let the freedom wash over you. You don't have to be passionate about everything you teach, everything you do. I'm not passionate about everything I do, trust me. You should see my email inbox. I am clearly not passionate about my email inbox, right? But there's 2 other areas of passion, fortunately. And one of them is your professional passion. So maybe you're not passionate about the content you're teaching today, but what is it about just this profession in general that you're passionate about? And how can you tap into that? If you want a hint, think about the reasons you got into this business to begin with. And there's always places there that you can get passionate about. And then the third area of passion is your personal passions. So what is it completely outside of education that you're passionate about? And how can you tap into that more often, and also bring that into your educational world. So when you can bring all three of those passions together, your content passion, your professional passion, and your personal passions, that's when you become relentless and uncompromising in the pursuit of excellence and greatness. And you're able to sail over those obstacles that other teachers crash into and burn out.
I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right on that. And great message for the audience to hear. And we have enough time that I want to do one more. We actually got quite a bit of questions for this one, and I normally limit it to one question.
Bring them on. Let's go. I'll rapid fire them. Let's go.
Well, rapid fire them. I'll give you two more here. I'll give you two more, and then we'll move on from it. What advice do you have for new teachers? And I'm gonna add to this and say teachers or leaders or people who feel overwhelmed by the pressure to be both innovative and effective right from the start.
Yeah, so no one is perfect from the start. I talked to a teacher who, and I might have written about this in the book, but if not, I'll tell you the story. They said, hey, I'm ready to leave the profession. I'm not good at this. I'm not cut out for this. And I said, okay, hold on. Tell me what happened. They described a situation where like 29 of their 30 students were engaged, but there was one student who popped off, was a problem, discipline problem, disrupted the lesson, and it was an issue, right? They walked away from that feeling like a failure. And I said, listen, if you set up your rubric for success such that you have to have 100% engagement from 100% of your kids on 100% of the days, you have now set up a rubric which is going to guarantee you a lifetime and a career of disappointment and failure. It is never about 100%. It's about getting better and improving. These ideas will help you improve your student engagement. It's not going to make it perfect, right? And so, but the problem is new teachers, when something goes wrong, they think it's them. They think that they failed. Experienced teachers know that things go wrong because this is freaking hard. And this is very difficult. And learning is messy. Teaching is messy. And up to the very last day that I taught in school, I had lessons blow up in my face too. I had problems, disasters. Experienced teachers know that. Experienced teachers know that's part of the game. New teachers think it's them.
Absolutely. And that often comes from a message sent where people go to school to become educators. Don't reinvent the wheel. I have a love-hate relationship with that quote, don't reinvent the wheel, because I think the wheel always needs to be reinvented. Not realistically. I think wheels on a lot of things are great, but the idea of you can pick yourself and do it your own way. You have the uniqueness and the ability and the creative mindset to look at something out there and say, I want to do it this way instead, and try it and see what happens. Be the scientist, research into it and see where it goes. Okay, Dave, I got one more here. This totally unrelated to everything we've talked about, but I have to ask it because it's themed. Dave, do you have a favorite pirate movie? And if so, what is it?
Okay, that's a tough one. I think I might have to go with the original Pirates of the Caribbean on that.
Oh, you stole it. You stole my
answer. I think
that's
going to have to be the fact. And, you know, that thing happened. You put in the introduction, the Pirate Hall of Fame thing. It's this crazy situation where when I was nominated for that, I didn't even know that it existed.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I thought someone was pranking me actually. And so I did some research on it. I'm like, this is actually a real thing. I filled out all the stuff that I needed to do, and then got in. And if people are wondering who might be in the International Pirate Hall of Fame with me, it's this wide range of people who are somehow a part of pirate culture in some way. And I mean, I might be one of the more famous pirates around right now, actually, but other people in there, Blackbeard, so there's real pirates that are actually historical real pirates are in there, but also people this brings it up because of the movie. Johnny Depp is in the International Pirate Hall of Fame.
Is his character Captain Jack Sparrow?
Yeah. So Johnny Depp as a famous pirate actor is in there.
Okay.
Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote Treasure Island, is in there. And so there's people that sing pirate shanty, favorite pirate musicians who sing sea shanties and stuff like that. Reenactors, people who run pirate ship tourist attraction. There's anything about the pirate culture in general. There's people in there, including real pirates. And so, so I'm going to go, I'll go with the original Pirates of the Caribbean.
And you stole my answer because I would say that's my favorite as well. I'll pick a different one just because I have to at that point. And I'm going to go with Peter Pan. I loved it as a kid growing up.
Great choice.
I got kids of my own and they're going to see it soon. I think I went as Captain Hook for Halloween this year, one of the years here. I'm losing track of my Halloweens. So I got to go with Peter Pan. And it's funny that you said I thought this was a prank that you were being inducted, because you send me this intro and it says inducted into the Pirate Hall of Fame. And I go, this is a prank. And the reason I thought it was a prank was because there was one gentleman who I interviewed earlier in my show, and he said, yeah, I asked, somebody that I was speaking, I said, what do you want to do for my intro? And then they said, well, I don't know. What do you want me to do? He said, just make something up. And the person went and rattled off all of these accolades that the speaker did not have. And then they came up on stage and they'd be like, yeah, that is not me. I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
So I read it and I had to go fact check that. That was one of the things where I said, hey, this is real. This is cool. It was very neat to see. Now, slight segue away from that, though. You know what, Dave? We are getting close to the hour mark here, and I just want to share that it has been an absolute pleasure of mine to connect with you. But before we wrap up, how can our audience get in touch with you and connect more if they want to teach like a pirate?
Yeah, for sure. So I am all across social media on X and Blue Sky. I am at Burgess Dave. So you can find me those places. On Instagram, I am D_INC. So like Dave Burgess Consulting, DBC_INC on Instagram. Pirate.teacher on TikTok. I need to get better there, by the way, but that's okay. And I have a podcast, The Dave Burgess Show. So I'd love to check out The Dave Burgess Show. And I'm at daveburgess.com. And the publishing company is at daveburgessconsulting.com.
And Alchemists, there's a link to all of that in the description of this show as well. And as we wrap up our episode, I also want to take a moment to just share my appreciation for you listeners. You are always the reason that we're here, and you're the inspiration for the show. We talked a lot this show about the service part and being a part of the community. We are here to help this community and the alchemy community and the education leadership community grow. And I hope that our conversation today sparked some points of interest for you. To dive deeper, make sure you subscribe to our monthly newsletter, check out the YouTube channel, all of our social media links, they're in the description as well for actionable strategies, in-depth analysis of each episode. Reach out to our Instagram in the DMs if you want some specific links. And Dave, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your schedule to connect, collaborate, and empower us all through your lived experiences.
Really appreciate you having me on the show.
You've been listening to The Elemental Educator. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Elemental Educator.